Hi friends, it's Shuba. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, thanks for stopping by. I like to read a lot of books. Now, I am not normally one to read how-to books or self-help books, but within the past year, I have read over 60 books, and the year isn't even over, and people have been asking me, how do I read so much? How do I make the time to read so much? And where do I even begin if I want to get started with reading again? So I thought that I would make a quick video on what I've learned about myself within this past year, within the past 2 years really, of getting back into reading, and what tips I might have for you if you are trying to get into the habit of reading as well. If you are the person for this video, then grab your glass of wine or your beverage of choice, and I hope that this video is helpful for you, because this is what I've learned and this is what works for me. Cheers. Now, the biggest tip that I have for you is to schedule in reading time. We are very busy individuals. We are in school, we are working in full-time jobs, part-time jobs, we're taking care of our families. There are only 24 hours in the day, and we have to sleep for some of it. So what I like to do is I schedule in my reading time. I have a 9-to-5 job, 40 hours a week. I work. But what I like to do is make the time to read by waking up early so I can read with my morning cup of coffee. That is the best time for me, and not only is a way for me to wake myself up, but it's also a way for me to relax with my coffee and get some reading time in, ditch my phone so I'm not scrolling on it as much, and get those pages in. I will read anywhere between 1 to 2 hours before work. Work starts at 8, so I'll normally wake up at around 6 o'clock, take the dogs out, feed them, make myself my cup of coffee, and then read for the remainder of the period before work starts. And same with that, what I'll do at night is I will try to set my phone aside and read a little bit before bed, whether that's 50 pages, whether that's 30 minutes, whatever the time that I have before it is bedtime and lights are off, I'll take that time to read. I think that that is the best way for me to wind down personally, and now that I'm in that habit of it, I look forward to it. I look forward to waking up in the morning, even though I am waking up early to read, and then I look forward to reading in bed before going to sleep. So that is my biggest tip for you if you are a reader and trying to read more, or if you are wanting to be a reader. I would say schedule that time in, and that doesn't have to mean for you have to wake up X amount of time before work and X amount of time before bed. I guess you're not waking up, but you know what I mean. You don't have to set that. It can be whatever schedule fits best for you. Maybe that's 15 minutes before bed. Maybe that's 15 minutes before you go to work. Make sure you put in that time. Write it in your planner. Give yourself a reminder on your phone, because when you write things down and schedule time for yourself, you're more likely to get it done. So that is my biggest piece of advice. I will say though, if you do wake up in the morning, it is a little rough, but you'll find that comfort and joy for sure. If you're trying to read whenever you possibly can in any type of idle time situation, you might want to consider your iPhone or any phone that you have, or your Kobo, your Kindle, an e-reader, or even your iPad, where you can download the Libby app and borrow books from the library so you can read them on your electronic devices. This is also a great way so you don't get on social media and you don't doom scroll forever. It's a great way to get those pages in, and if you don't have a Kobo or Kindle or e-reader, that is totally fine. You can get your books physically from the library. You can purchase them. But I will say that Kobo and Kindle, they both have their apps where you can download them and read books on your iPad and your iPhone and even your laptop. You don't necessarily need an e-reader to access those books, which is a big plus with those types of services. And I do really appreciate that. But just note, the library is always here for you. So quick shout out to your local public library. This second piece of advice might be a little controversial. I have to say there's more people who disagree with me than not, but I stand by my opinion. I consider listening to audiobooks as reading. Yes, I said it. I agree with it. I believe it. If you listen to an audiobook, you are still reading. You are reading with your ears. If you like listening to podcasts, you might be more inclined to trying out audiobooks. Audiobooks are a great way to read something while you are multitasking, whether that is commuting to work and back home, whether that's going grocery shopping, whether that's doing laundry, cleaning up around the house. You can do both at the same time. What I have found recently that I like to do is if I am cooking dinner, I will try to put on an audiobook and listen to it while I'm making dinner. So it passes the time and I'm enjoying cooking more. I don't really like cooking, so that's my issue here, but reading makes it fun for sure. So if this is something that you want to try or want to do, go for it. There are plenty of ways that you can read while you multitask, and audiobooks are a perfect way to do so. Another tip that I have for you that I have personally been working on myself is understanding that it is okay to DNF books. DNF means did not finish books. There are so many books out there, and not every book is going to be your cup of tea. And if you find a book that you don't necessarily like, if it bores you, if you can't get past a certain amount of pages, if you're forcing yourself to read the book, DNF it. Get it out of here. Donate it, give it to a friend, sell it if you want to, but don't force yourself to read something that you don't want to. Life is too short to do that. In this world, we have so many books to be read. So it's okay if you don't necessarily like a book. I know this is easier said than done. I have found that I am very stubborn, and if I pick up a book and I start reading it, even if I don't like it, I will try to finish it. And it's this weird mental thing where you want to finish what you start. But in this case, don't do it. It is not worth it. Especially if you're trying to get into reading to begin with. You want to read books that you enjoy, because that's going to spark that interest, and that's going to get you to want to read the next book and the next book after that. So my advice to you, and even I challenge you, if you don't normally DNF books, ditch that book that you don't want to read. Find another book, because I sure will tell you that it's worth it. DNFing is definitely worth it, and no one is going to judge you for doing that. We need to get out of this mindset that we have to finish a certain book just because we started it. Another tip that I have for you that I really enjoy doing is read with your friends. I understand that reading can be such a solitary hobby or task, but it doesn't have to be. Whether it is starting your own book club or joining a book club to read with other people where you can make friends, there is still a way for you to have that independent time for yourself, but then also be able to kind of chat about that book with your friends and your book buddies. It is such a great way to not only find books that you might like, but also it's a great way to be more interactive with reading and not make it so independent, if that's not your thing. I have really enjoyed buddy reading. I have a few books that I'm currently reading right now with a few different friends, and I think it is so much fun. You not only get to chat about those books that you're reading with people in real time, but it also gives you a chance to understand other people's opinions and feelings towards a specific chapter or a character or a plot, and get you a different experience with the book that you are currently reading. So I really enjoy it, and it definitely has been making reading more fun for me. And if you want to try it out, do it. You're not stuck with it as well. If you decide that you want to try buddy reading with somebody or join a book club, you can do that. But if it's not for you, ditch it. Like I said with DNFing. One suggestion would be, if you're new to buddy reading or joining these group book clubs, Fable is a free app where you can download it and you can join book clubs virtually and chat with people about specific chapters or specific books. There are so many book clubs on Fable, and that gives you a chance to read on your own time, but also be able to interact with people when you want to and say what you want without having to feel so pressured. So I really like Fable for that. And if you've never heard of it, I definitely suggest checking it out. It's great. It's also a woman-owned company, which I love supporting women. Another tip that I have for you is to find genres that you think you'll like, but also don't be afraid to read outside of your comfort zone. When I first started reading, I was mostly only reading fantasy. I grew up reading fantasy, and then when I started reading again in 2021, that's really all I read. I never touched romance books at all. I was very much in the fantasy and sci-fi genre of books. I'm honestly not even sure why I never picked up a romance book until this year. I just thought that romance books weren't for me. I thought that that's just what TV shows and movies were for. I really regret it, because I feel like I am now catching up on so many books that I have not read yet in the romance category. My tip for you is to not be afraid to try something new, and if it works for you, that's great. Keep going. Keep that momentum of reading from that genre going, or DNF it. Really going back to that DNFing here. There are so many genres and subgenres out there. You are bound to find a book that is suited for you, and then a book similar to that book that you love. You will find it. I promise you. It might take some tries and take a few books, but you'll really get there. And after that, you'll branch out into some other genres that you never thought that you would have liked before. My last tip here for you is really an overarching tip that goes back to everything else that we just talked about, but read whenever you can and read whenever you want to. Reading is a hobby. It shouldn't feel forced. You shouldn't feel pressure to read. It doesn't matter how many books you read in a year, how many books you read in a day, how many pages you read. None of that matters as long as you are enjoying reading and you are having a good time doing it. Reading should never feel forced, and if there is one thing I want you to take away from this entire video, it is just that reading should be a fun hobby, something that you want to do, something you look forward to doing. All right, friends, those are my tips that I have for you. And these tips are all of the reasons how and why I got back into reading, how I read so many books every single year, and just how I've still appreciated reading. If you have any tips that you would like to share, I would love to know how you read so much, what got you back into reading, what tips have helped you read more. Drop them down in the comments below so you can share them with the world as well. I hope to see you in another video next time. Have a great day. Bye.